Stephen.
Andrew.
Do you fancy spending a quiet night inside number 9?
Of course.
So we're going inside Mr. King, so to speak. We're at Series 7, Episode 2, Mr. King, directed by Louise Hooper, produced by Kim Crowther, and written by Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith. First aired on the 27th of April, 2022, the final Wednesday before May Day, quite appropriately.
Very appropriately. A new team behind the camera again as well.
Yeah, Louise Hooper. I don't think come across her as a director before, so brilliant work, Louise, for your Inside Number 9 debut appearance. Or not appearance, whatever the equivalent appearance is, the other side of the camera.
Lack of appearance.
So what's the difference between Alan Curtis and Pinocchio?
I don't know. What is the difference between Alan Curtis and Pinocchio?
Pinocchio could get out of Wales.
Now that is because Pinocchio was eaten by a whale. Have I got that right, Mr. Curtis?
Yes, was just a joke.
Yeah, we meet Mr. Curtis, Alan Curtis, who has travelled from London to avoid the cut and thrust of city education. Little does he know he's entered a whole different type of cut and thrust in village life. Yes, he takes over the class, realises they don't know a lot about the environment. He's quite passionate about the environment, and they both learn valuable lessons about all sorts of ways the environment interacts with people and people interact with the environment. Yeah, so what were your initial reactions to this?
I really enjoyed this in a really weird way. It was... I like that it started off with me thinking something was going to happen, and then took me down a completely different path, and then brought me back sort of to more like what I thought was going to happen in the first place towards the end.
Right. Yeah.
Sort of the folksy insular small town always sort of sets you on edge of what's going to go on here, because it's a well-worn kind of trope, I guess. Mm-hmm. And then it took you off in a potential child abuse storyline, and then right back round to the crazy village folk at the end again.
Yep. I think that was a very similar experience for me. I was very struck by, certainly with Steve's character, the way that it became very, very League of Gentlemen. It had that real League vibe to it, and he was very comfortable, I think, playing that role. It seemed like, yes, he's just fitting back into that. Yeah, so I mean, obviously you've got to point to the homage that it's making to The Wicker Man.
What?
I feel
Are you serious? I didn't get that. I don't.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because we've talked about Reece's love for that film and how it appears in different ways in other episodes. There's like little hints of it and little respects being paid to it.
But here they went balls out.
Yeah, I was kind of, because I mean, like they talked about no one's going to be surprised that we did that, and I kind of was a little bit surprised.
Well, you always thought that it was so on the nose.
Yeah, exactly. Like I wasn't expecting them to go fully into that, but yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense that they did. Or a homage to Midsummer, according to
it's been
some sources.
Bleak week of TV and film viewing this week. I've not come out the other side of this feeling very good about watching television.
I was going to say, you look a bit you look bleak.
Glazy-eyed.
I think we both watched Midsummer for the first time. I'd not seen it before. But
one thing I did think when I was watching Midsummer was there's obviously a reason why this horror element kind of plays, there's this play on places that sort of seem similar and seem relatable but aren't kind of thing. And the League of Gentlemen does it as well. And I've heard people sort of making reference to Hot Fuzz and things when watching this. It's kind of this sense of these little insular villages that we all know. And this is just like an extreme version of what could possibly go on in them.
Yeah.
When they're very protective of their own little communities and don't welcome outsiders really. And it's kind of like builds up to this kind of sense of, well, what could be happening there? Yeah, this could be going on.
Yes,
they could be burning people inside wicker men. They could be sacrificing them and burying them. It could be forcing them to jump off cliffs and then smashing their faces in with hammers. All of these things are the very sort of pinnacle of excesses that we imagine could happen in these little communities.
It's almost the imagination of those who have never seen the inside of these communities, but except on these in these shows, they confirm everything that you fear might be true.
Or don't go out to the countryside, the villages. You know what they do out there.
Yeah, exactly.
They build giant corn men and burn people in them.
I was telling him you're going to be taking all your lessons in English, which is a very important skill for those adventurers amongst you who might be thinking about leaving the village in the future. Mr. Curtis used to teach at a school in London, so I'm sure he'll have all sorts of exciting stories to tell us. They pay £2 for a coffee, don't they?
And the rest.
Oh, dearie me, imagine that.
I was looking at names because I thought this is the,
It's not like you at all, mate.
this sort of thing, like names could be important. Curtis means courteous. Adam means son of the red earth. Alan means harmony or precious. So there's he's bringing harmony to the earth, and he's being very courteous by obligingly
allowing himself
rocking up and doing that. Mr. Edwards, so that's Steve's character. Edwards is from Ede, which is guardian, protector, wealth. So the sort of, I suppose, the father figure of this community. Mr. Hardy, Robin Hardy, was the director of The Wicker Man. So I don't know if there's a...
sneaky.
Yeah. Kerry means to love. Winnie means gentle friend, soft. Owen means youthful. And Gwen means white, fair, holy.
I think they may have just picked some very Welsh-sounding names for the kids.
I think maybe they did, yeah.
Just in case you aren't sure, guys, we're in Wales.
Owen, Kerry.
I'm not going to do any Welsh accents. I mean, that's your speciality, really, isn't it?
Some would say so.
We've heard your Brummie one. I think we've heard an Aussie one at points. Yeah, Just another one in your repertoire.
Yeah, sure. I might bring it out. Sometimes it just comes out without.
It just did a second ago.
Yeah, that's true. So we kind of start with an introduction to, it's Mr. Edwards speaking Welsh to the class and then introducing Mr. Curtis. And then there's a great moment where he says that Mr. Curtis is going to be teaching his lessons in English.
And they all groan.
It is an important skill if anybody wishes to leave the village at some point in the future.
But that's the thing. That's immediate flags of this is an incredibly insular little community where no one ever leaves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a nod straight to it. And having just seen the establishing shot with the cornfield outside, that was me in creepy little village mode straight away. So that was flagging. Yeah. So you had that sense right from the get-go.
But like I say, I then kind of put it to one side and thought, maybe not. Mm-hmm. But the cornfield did have me straight away on high alert for this.
Yeah. When he talks about Mr. King having to leave after a wonderful year, sort of spoke to that, when on rewatch, it's like, yes, they did have a wonderful year. Harvest wise, we see that later on, the size of those leeks. It was a wonderful year.
The carrots have grown a bit weirdly though, so
Slightly. I did have a carrot.
I did see. I saw.
Did you see that carrot? Yeah.
I saw your carrot.
Yeah. It had
It was interesting.
two little offshoots on it. Yeah.
Double bounty.
Very difficult to peel.
I imagine so. How'd you get sort of inside each of those?
I ended up lopping off each knob.
Oh, treating them as like a little carrot in their own right.
Just tiny little carrots. 3 tiny carrots. Yeah. And I mean, it was slightly difficult with the really small one because you're always in danger of peeling your finger.
And it's all peel, really, isn't it? By the time you get
Mostly
a little
peel.
bit into that,
It's just like tiny little,
it's gone.
tiny little raisin, little orange raisin in the middle.
Hello, we digressed.
Dear Class 9, greetings from down under. I'm having an amazing time and I'm thinking of you as you start your next chapter. I cherish the memory of our time together and getting to know all of you so closely. Much love, Mr. King.
What a man! What a teacher! What a man!
So the postcard comes out.
Yes.
Kerry has the honour, does it beautifully, reads it very, very beautifully. Greetings from down under. So, Mr.
He
King
is down under.
He's gone to Australia.
I don't think he's gone quite that far through the earth.
Something that really, on second viewing, intrigued me in this bit was Mr. Edwards saying, "What a man, what a teacher, what a man."
Yeah.
And I was thinking, is this about the picture that he'd have taken of him? Is that?
I think it possibly is. Yeah. What a man.
What a man.
He must have been one of the pictures with 2 gold stars on it.
I think so. Yeah. And this is when we sort of meet Mr. Curtis properly introducing his joke about Pinocchio.
It's not a very nice introduction for him, really, is it? This whole setup that everything about him is not Mr. King. He's going to be running his lessons in English, which is disappointing. He can't match up with this incredible figure that the kids loved and had a great time with for the year, and who put on these incredible assemblies. Are a much bigger deal here than I've ever come across in any other school.
Yeah, they take their assemblies very seriously. Yeah, so it's pointing to like massive isolation. Having come from London, the hustle and bustle of a big city, I'm guessing the kids would be speaking Welsh to one another. So there's already that disconnect there, that feeling of like, oh, I don't belong. What are they saying? And that kind of stuff.
That's how they want you to feel in these villages.
That's it. Yeah. And then he tells his joke and it's crickets because they've not heard of Pinocchio.
This is the thing with Mr. Edwards, is I can't really get a read on how much he does know and doesn't know about anything.
About anything, yeah. Yeah.
When he has to check that his understanding of the joke is correct about Pinocchio.
Yeah. And then Mr. Edwards leaves and Mr. Curtis is allowed to get on with the lesson. So he gets into the environment.
They need to set up their end of term assembly. That is the initial straight away. We need to get this assembly right.
All about the assembly.
I mean, I don't know what they're doing about fractions because that doesn't look like it's contributing towards the assembly. And everything is about the assembly. It's going to be about, the environment.
Yeah. So he asks them what
sort of things do they know about the environment? What is the environment is the initial thing. And they only have these very little reference points of their classroom, the fields. And that's basically it.
I hadn't thought, that's really, really just the limited scope of their lives.
Yes, that's all they know.
The classroom and the fields.
That's it.
That's a good point. And then Gwen comes out and says that human beings can affect...
Yep, they can. Those human beings.
So what types of things will affect our environment?
Oh, human beings, sir.
What's that, Gwen?
Human beings.
And not human beings, we're not vegetables, but human beings, yes. We certainly have an impact.
He's a strange primary school teacher as a character, because he's very... he doesn't want to indulge in nonsense.
No.
He wants them to know about climate change, and it's very important that they understand about climate change. And we're not going to be talking about human beings or God farting causing hurricanes, Owen. Yes.
And this is where I think we see a nod to Sergeant Howie in The Wicker Man, who was very much of that approach on Summer Isle, where he is not there to mess around. He's very, very serious. And I think this scene in particular as well has this nod to, so when he's like, have you not heard of global warming, climate change, all of these things, and gets really quite angry about it. And then like, have you heard of Greta Thunberg? And it's like Sergeant Howie talking about Christianity and do you not know about Christ and all of this stuff? And then with the Hope poster, very reminiscent of the way that he's like stapling it to the board as like almost this icon of like hope of everything is about this. There's a scene in The Wicker Man where he's in the graveyard and there's like boxes of empty apples on top of one of the graves. I think it's like in the churchyard. It's all overgrown and everything. Yeah. And then he makes a cross out of two of the bits of wood and then puts it down on top of the stone. And it's almost that same thing. I remember. Yeah. Can sort of hold this bit of me, or this thing that gives me this sense of connection to my own beliefs and all of that sort of stuff in a place where nobody shares them.
But that's what's interesting about that poster, is at the end of the episode, he's clearly very fixated on that poster to the point where he doesn't seem to realize that the stuff he's stapled up around it is paintings of human bodies hanging around trees. Like that has apparently not twigged with him at all, that those things are perhaps not the best primary school artwork projects to have up on the wall in this classroom.
He's paid very little attention to those what is the content of those paintings?
Yeah. Oh, heads, buried heads. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Head in a tree.
So yeah, and like because he's sort of talks about the curriculum as well. It's almost like, okay, we're setting up here. The curriculum is like religion. That's like the Christianity thing that he puts all of his belief in the curriculum. Aren't you teaching the curriculum? This island doesn't know anything about Christianity. It's like that nice little parallel.
Yeah.
And then Mr. Edwards comes along the corridor. I think it's when he's stapling up the Hope poster. Yeah. And you can hear him humming John Barleycorn Must Die at that point. And so you're wondering, have they just is he coming away from like some sort of assembly practice?
Maybe.
Have they sort of been running through it in the school hall?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that actually. Yeah, there's a reason they're so good at it. By the end of the episode, is he's been running rehearsals every day.
And it is a great assembly. I mean, we'll get to it, but it is a great little,
incredible piece of performance art.
Absolutely, and a really nice, tangible narrative that runs through it and stuff. Like it's well put together.
But having said, I mean, we don't see a lot of the teaching that goes on, but they've clearly picked up a lot of it.
They have
by the end. And whether Mr. Edwards knows more than he lets on, there's quite a strong message. That the initial bit, the assembly, they know what's happening here.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
That's it. It all kind of derails.
It's the moment that we'll recycle him later.
Yes.
So recycling, obviously, in this bit comes up for the first time.
And they're aware of that.
Yeah. They know about recycling. Maybe not in the same way as, those people in London think about recycling, but...
Well, that's the thing. I think the Christianity curriculum thing, kind of comes down to the fact that the Summer Isle had its own kind of belief system going on that wasn't influenced by what was supposedly the right way of thinking about things that the majority of the mainland were thinking about over in the UK. And there's a similar thing here where they just they have their own sort of teaching system in this little Welsh village that is all about surviving off the land and quite pagan, just as Summer Isle, I guess. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And we find out that they've been almost threatened. Well, they've been threatened with closure on several occasions. Mr. Edwards tells us, as you would be. I want to know why they weren't closed down. Like what, because more accusations flying around. Well, a dead Ofsted inspector that's buried under the cornfields can't close you down. Exactly. That's true. He reported no issues. And there is the little dig at Ofsted when it becomes clear that Megan is gonna dig out the B-mail and send it as a text. So take that, Ofsted.
We're a small school, Alan, as you can see, and we've very nearly been closed down a few times. But bringing in teachers such as yourself with all your experience of the world really helps the children grow, Well, that's all I want, Headmaster. It really is. Jolly good. Right, well, I'll get that B-mail for you, and I'll get Megan to send it to you as a text. Take that, Ofsted.
There's this sort of underlying question through the entire episode, which is what happened to Alan in London? Yeah,
and he's so serious, and then there's that moment when he kind of loses the plot a bit when they don't have that same care about the environment that he does, that he kind of loses it slightly and then has to take his medication. Mm-hmm. And you kind of wonder what's led to this point here. And I think that's kind of a bit of a red herring. Kind of, it sends you down all right, what's he going to do? Why is he here, and what's he going to do next? And what is this dark character going to show himself to be capable of? And that's kind of played on as we go through his scenes with Kerry, and there's a horrible bit, and I guess we'll talk a bit more about the Kerry scene with him and Kerry. Mm-hmm. And that all plays out. We'll come back to that in a second, but the haunting bit when they cut away from the conversation, he's just saying good girl or something like that, and the paint runs, and you're like, does that then fade to something? Mm-hmm. And then the conversation happens afterwards, and you think, oh, what is this now? What has happened? Yeah. And there is weirdly that sort of unanswered question to some degree of like, what, because that good girl thing, like, do you want to go outside and play, or do you want to stay in here with me? I'll stay in here. Good girl. Good. And he repeats it. Good girl. And there's the bit where, after Mr. Edwards kind of introduces these accusations, he says, do you want to get your rep involved? No.
And he's so quick to say no. Like, it's like, oh, there is something.
What doesn't he want to have come out? Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we have this beautiful B-mail. It's just a very silly but delightfully hilarious exchange about B-mail. Or is that the one with the blue bird? No, that's
the thing with his character. It's one of those things where there's a certain amount of darkness going on here, because he's playing on this idea of his innocence and how little he knows about the outside world, and he's just this nice older gentleman who's grown up in this village all his life, and he doesn't know anything about these silly things in the outside world, when in fact he is an incredibly dark, manipulative man who has a bunch of kids doing his bidding, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure he's sort of plugged into all sorts of stuff, and I bet at home he has an internet connection that allows him more than just a country file over the web.
I imagine so. He's seen all the Christopher Lee films, modelled himself on.
Almost certainly. Yeah. And there's another little line that takes on new meaning when you know what's going to happen, which is, having teachers like you really helps the kids grow. So sort of, obviously the food that the kids are eating that create these sort of airport Toblerone style stools.
That is an incredible description. So weirdly vivid yet incredibly painful sounding to pass.
I didn't want to dwell on it for too long.
So we'll leave it there. You would have to dwell on it.
Oh.
Very good.
But I think we cut now to the painting lesson.
Which is nice. There's a really nice feel about what's going on. It's like he's sort of settled in.
Kerry making a coffee.
He's found his place. That was a bit weird. That was what kind of made me feel like there was a weird dynamic developing with the kids, was the fact that there were kids apparently making him hot drinks and just bringing them over to him. And he was without questions like, oh, cheers, Kerry, thanks. Oh, thanks. As though it's like, it's your turn to make me tea now. Come on. You know what I need during the lesson. I need a cup of tea. Oh, come on. But yeah, that was weird. Mm-hmm. It was weirder that he found tadpoles in it, but...
Yeah, but he's sort of asking for, I suppose, expecting kids to make him a cup of tea.
Yeah, I wouldn't... Yeah, it's really a weird thing to do.
Yeah, so in terms of like parallels, again, to The Wicker Man, it's like shades of Myrtle in the post office when Sergeant Howie's looking for Rowan at the beginning, gets pointed to Mae Morrison's post office and then goes in and finds Myrtle painting her hair. And she says that's Rowan. But yeah, so it's and there's hairs painted on the walls of the classroom as well, isn't there? It's like little nods to that. And yeah, so that's such a weird, it's a real creepy scene in The Wicker Man, very understated, where she like passes him the paintbrush to join in, but passes it upside down, so he gets paint all over his hands and stuff. Yeah. It's like, just like this really disconcerting, like, yeah, what are you doing? And then he joins in, paints. He's quite bold in what he paints, I think, on that hair in The Wicker Man. He like goes for the eyes. I think he'd like, which I've always found a bit like, that's a bit presumptuous.
It is.
Getting involved.
Because that's got an opportunity to really wreck it.
You could ruin the painting there, yeah. I'd go
Just do a little bit of it, like its tail. A little bit of tail.
Bit of grass around, maybe not even go anywhere near.
Or maybe that, actually, stay away from the hair.
Yeah.
Stay away from the background.
From the hair, indeed.
Stay away from it.
Yeah. And yes, so the tadpoles are introduced to the cup of tea.
They were introduced in the previous scene.
They were in the fish.
They were sort of, but they were, how do you de-introduce? What's the opposite of introducing? Wave goodbye.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Yeah.
They didn't last long.
No.
No.
They didn't get a lot of character development.
That was a great, a vivid scene. You know, you can really taste that. The way that Reese, like, that moment is like, oh, that's really bad.
That's not a texture that... No.
I think that would put you off even drinking hot drinks for a little while.
Yeah.
Potentially. And that's similar, again, shades of, there's a beetle. So actually, it's from a scene in The Wicker Man that I think is very influential to this episode.
God, this is like The Wicker Man, isn't it? No one would...
But yeah, there's the scene in The Wicker Man in the classroom. So the classroom is quite significant, I think, as an influence on this, because obviously it's a classroom.
Yeah.
And I mean, the bit in The Wicker Man that is like, there's a blackboard, which there's a blackboard in Mr. King. There's not the most obnoxious scene that was repeated in Nicolas Cage's version of The Wicker Man. Just very, I don't know, there's so much in there that's just clunky references. But he goes in...
I haven't put myself through that.
No, I mean, it's worth it just for like a what on earth is this?
Would you be better off just watching this episode of Inside Number 9 if you wanted a decent homage to The Wicker Man?
Most definitely, but if you want to be like knocked off your feet with like
how bad something can be,
how can something get through this number
this
of
many layers of editing
exactly, and just,
approval?
Yeah, approval, exactly. But yeah, there's a scene where he goes in and just writes down I think he writes down like Rowan's name or something and rubs off everything off the blackboard. And it's like, there's loads of stuff written on there. And it's this really obnoxious moment that always gets me. Whenever I watch it, I'm like, what?
That's a horrible thing to
do. But that sort of probably represents a lot of his lack of, or his dis-ease and his feelings of like, he needs to be in control, but he's completely out. Nothing is in his control. And then he finds in the empty desk where we presume would be Rowan Morrison's seat. It's like a beetle attached to a nail on a string, and it goes round and round and round, and then gets really tight up to the nail, and then goes round and round the other way.
A maypole.
Essentially, yeah. And it's this kind of, abusive little little creatures. And
it turns out it was some kind of reference to being boiled alive. Global warming. Yeah. Did she boil them in the kettle and boil them through, or just pour the boiling water onto them? I'm not sure which.
Well, he thinks that she boiled the kettle with them in, yeah.
Ugh.
And then she points out that Mr. King once ate a goldfish, which he doesn't care. He doesn't care about what Mr. King did, but clearly
he does, because then he tries to recreate it with some carrot shavings, which was nice. I like it. It was, But that exchange with her where she's making sort of reference to it being like global warming, and I'm not sure what. You might have a better idea of what you think she is and what she's doing. From the off, she seems a bit sort of dead behind the eyes, kind of. There's something that's not particularly pleasant. And she's very cold and very sort of disconnected almost from what's going on in the classroom around her. And it turns out right at the end that she is vicious and nasty. And I don't know what it is that's... Is this all just a big act on her part that is designed to make him feel as uncomfortable as possible? Because she's just sadistic.
Mm-hmm. Or is she disconnected from it because actually you kind of have to be?
How old are they when they first start doing this to their teachers? How many years has this been going on? Is this like... Well, you're in year 5 now. You've seen 5 different teachers pass through. Like, is it at the moment they start school? Every single year group within that school has a teacher that gets murdered at the end of the year. New full set of staff comes in. Yeah.
Does every class do this? Or it's class 9. I suppose it's inside 9, isn't it? So
yeah, I'd be interested to see if Alan had a conversation with another member of staff who was like, "No, I've just started as well." And realised that these are all new starters and the entire last set of teachers have just been wiped out and murdered and buried, just like every other year.
But they're all now in Australia.
Well, they're all down under at least. She's a vicious little character.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like she's very pointed in her lines that she... It's kind of a maliciousness.
But what's with the acting? What's with the acting out sort of the fear and the scared and the Extinction Rebellion stuff that's apparently really frightened her, and they were able to view that on their Wi-Fi connections. But why is she playing up to this idea that she's terrified about the world ending?
Something upsetting you?
I don't want the world to end.
Well, it's not going to end. Who said it's going to end?
The stinking rebellion.
Who?
Let us read about it. For homework.
You mean the climate change protesters?
It frightens me.
Oh, you mustn't be frightened, Kerry. I mean, you should feel that emotion and then do something positive with it. It's all right. There. Sorry it frightened you. Now, do you want to go and play outside, or do you want to stay inside with me?
Stay with you.
Good girl. Good girl.
All of the malicious allegation stuff, is all of that just designed to put him off guard and make him feel uneasy? Is in terms of just general feeling about what maybe setting up a red herring. Mm-hmm. Great, definitely does a job there. Story wise, is it about building up an atmosphere of unease and making him feel like he can't sort of settle down? Because they do that with Howie, don't they? They do that with Howie on Summer Isle, where they kind of play with him. Mm-hmm. And is it just an extension of that?
Yeah, and they make him feel like he knows, and you see this in this, where after he kind of goes to the headmaster's office and discovers things, it's
things.
It's as if he's got the essence of the truth, which is that something untoward is going on, but he's completely missed the point of what that truth is. And in the same way, Howie on Summer Isle thinks he's got beneath this thing that, Rowan, there's going to be a human sacrifice. The crop failed. There's going to be a human sacrifice. Rowan's going to be killed. And so he then has this whole thing of horror, but completely misdirected.
So is this just a playful misdirection of not just us, but of him as well? She's almost creating an abuse storyline in his head. That's also mirrored in the fact that it's creating an abuse storyline in our head as well. And that he's starting to think something about Mr. King that we're also being led to believe about Mr. King at the same time.
And as you said, especially with that sort of good girl line as well, there's a seed planted, so to speak, in our minds.
That's all. That works on many different levels. So congratulations on that.
And maybe there is like a parallel with whatever happened in London. Maybe this has happened before. Maybe they're playing into, they've selected him perhaps.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that's, you don't know how he's been recruited, but like, I guess
they picked out someone that went a bit doolally.
Yeah. And the thing with like the Wicker Man and with Midsummer and all of those kinds of things, it's a carefully chosen target who then get, like, they're the right person. Don't know how much that is here, because I mean he's just as nature intended him. Like, they only realise that once Mr. Edwards sort of gets the Polaroid camera out and gets his trousers down. I'm not sure if they know. Maybe like they got news from his like squash partner or something like that. Like,
maybe
this guy.
My idea of a squash partner in a harvest festival. He's the person that gets the button-ups, the butternuts up to scratch. But I think that's the thing about all of this, and like you say, the careful selection with those things. And going back to what I said earlier about the unknown and the kind of almost eerie, what's the word? Innocence. It's almost like they are so innocent that it becomes creepy, because they're playing up to this idea of we're simple folk. We don't care for your £2 plus coffees and your hustle and bustle of daily life. We're happy with what we've got here. And actually, they're not simple at all. They're incredibly scheming, vicious, luring people into, sacrifice to pagan gods.
And I mean, there's a big difference with the way that they're doing it to some of the other things where these great human sacrifices are very rare. So like on Summer Isle, it's only when the crop fails so disastrously that you need that perfect, innocent human sacrifice.
Yeah. This Midsummer every 90 years or something that they have this big event, something like that, once in a lifetime.
Yeah, whereas here it's every year. Like they're probably in Good Leaks every year, great potatoes.
Well, it's because I think they're quite proactive, aren't they? I think what they'd say about Summer Isle is they're very reactive.
This is one of the things I was thinking.
Don't wait for it to fail. Make sure every year you're ensuring it doesn't fail with your outside human sacrifice.
Yeah, I think proactive is definitely the word for it. Yeah.
If you're going to go about this behaviour, be proactive.
Well, where do you suppose she's got this from then? Because I don't recall that being in the Biff and Chip books.
I don't know. Maybe she saw something inappropriate online. It happens all the time.
Not with our Wi-Fi connection, it doesn't. It takes me all weekend to download one country file. Did you talk to her about Michael Jackson doing things with boys' anuses?
Yes, but I never said anuses.
Well, that's something.
Michael Jackson videos.
Yeah.
I'd never watched the video of him having his hair set on fire before.
Have you not? No, I don't think I have. I think I've heard of it.
I watched it earlier. Yeah.
Did you? Another happy bit of viewing for the week.
It was like, I think it was on YouTube and someone had set it to like some sad music and been like, viewers may find the content of this disturbing or whatever. And yeah, maybe. But it's
you didn't go looking for the other one though, I hope.
No, I didn't. I didn't even search for it. I'm not sure what that was referring to.
Please let us know if that is a well-known piece of footage that does exist somewhere on the internet, or is it just speculation about Michael Jackson's extracurricular activities? The Michael Jackson references were again a bit of a flag. Why are you choosing to bring up Michael Jackson videos of him playing with boys' bums in a conversation with a schoolgirl? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Safeguarding 101.
Yes, don't say that.
Don't do that. Yeah. And also Safeguarding 101, Mr. Edwards, when you're having the conversation about allegations that have been made.
That was brilliant. I really enjoyed that.
She may or may not be a girl. I promised Kerry's parents anonymity.
Now you've wormed that out of me.
Yeah. Oh, so good.
Hairy meat whistle was quite the line.
Great line.
Oh, great line.
And then one of my favourite lines in the whole thing, which is about I don't know you from Alan. Adam. Oh, sorry, I thought you were Alan.
He then calls him Adam for the entire rest of the episode.
I just think that works on so many levels so well.
Again, it's just more of the playing up to him being this bumbling, clueless man who actually is not bumbling and clueless at all.
No, he's in complete control the whole time.
And he says that we deal with these sorts of things in the community.
Yeah, always a red flag.
Always in the red flag. And then after all this, where it's kind of a case of, okay, well, I'm just getting your side of things. Well, before I let Kerry back into your clutches.
Yeah.
Don't be facetious, Adam. I'm trying to get to the bottom of this one way or the other. Either you're lying or the girl's lying.
I just can't believe this.
I can always contact your union representative.
No. Just make it quick, all right?
And that did take me by surprise when he said, I want you to show me your penis. It's like, sorry, what? And down come his trousers. Because he doesn't want to get
this was a balls out homage to
Yeah, he doesn't want to get the union rep involved, so this is
he'd rather have Polaroids taken of his cock.
This is the way to go. There has been a vivid description, so the obvious thing to do would be to compare the plasticine model with
it's how gleeful that Mr. Edwards was throughout the whole of this.
Mm-hmm. Which suggests maybe that this whole thing is just about him like having his little fetish of maybe this is all about Mr. Edwards rather than the land.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's because it's a bit like it reminded me of Dexter. Have you watched any Dexter?
I watched a bit of Dexter.
And how he takes blood slides of his victims. He like takes a little bit of blood and then puts it between two, like in a blood slide. And and then it's very similar, like almost a what's the word, trophy that serial killers sort of take or have. That's these Polaroids.
Oh, there's that bit in 7 where when they find the sloth guy tied to the bed, and there's the set of Polaroids of every day of him kind of wasting away.
Yeah,
flicking through those Polaroids and seeing what he's been up to. We get to see that a little bit later.
We do. Yeah.
Which, funnily enough, was the moment that my wife walked into the lounge and went, "What the hell are you watching?"
Good. But I mean, he is an expert. They are snowflakes. They're like snowflakes.
This one's a very clean and tidy, very neat and tidy one.
Neat and tidy.
Oh, this was a bit in the BFI video where they were talking about these Polaroids. Said that Steve had given them to Reese in an envelope, and Reese said that he had destroyed them all immediately, despite it being suggested they would have made a brilliant fundraising raffle prize. To which he looked a bit disgusted.
Yeah, and then we meet Winnie for the first time here, which is where she talks about her airport Toblerone stools of the boys in the toilet.
Don't worry, she's blind as a bat. And Steve is at this point blowing on the Polaroids into Alan's crotch, who just looked kind of horrified at the sensation.
But it's
this breeze.
Those moments they're very League of Gentlemen. Like, yeah, just the normality of it to some degree. Certainly with Winnie and Mr. Edwards, just accepting this as a part of it. And obviously they're saying that she's blind as a bat, but she's not. Well,
I don't know if I've been sort of primed for not feeling uncomfortable at someone taking their cock out inside number 9R to have to hold. Because that was horrendously awkward, and this felt less so. I don't know, maybe it was the lack of romantic or desired romantic nature of the scene, but this was just another one of these. Answer down, cocks out again.
They say they're like snowflakes. No two are alike.
And then this opens the door to all of the... this is where the carrot comes in next to like the fractions and biology lesson. Interesting combination.
He's also, in this scene, he also tells Owen that he needs to have tight lips. These are for listening.
Yeah.
These are for speaking.
We'll call back to that later on.
Yeah. And then, the carrot's getting passed around. And this is, again, another sense of him feeling out of control of a situation that everyone else is in on. And it's kind of a little microcosm of all his frustrations about stuff going on around him that he can't control. And the kids are laughing at something and he thinks it might be him. And it just turns out to be a funny looking carrot.
Yeah.
I don't know if they had a very, based on the looks on their faces when he comes out with what he does, I think they just felt innocently like it was a funny looking carrot.
Yeah, they didn't seem like they were sort of laughing at the same thing that he assumed they were laughing at. And I wonder what it was, because you're saying this is all edited together, because I think this scene especially is one where he's saying like, is it because it looks like a penis? Yeah,
he wasn't allowed to say that with a room full of kids in front of him.
No.
So they all got a version of the script, and their parents got the real one, apparently.
Right.
But the kids all had their own version of their script, which was kind of like a false one, and it had just the bits that seemed very innocent in them. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it turned out that you can't really do or say an awful lot with a bunch of kids in the room. So it all had to be edited together to look as though they were. But yeah, when he loses it and shouts about it looking like a great big floppy penis, no kids were there to hear that little outburst.
Give it to me now. What's this? Gwen. Gwen?
Carrots!
Carrots? Well, why are you laughing then? Is it because this bit looks like a penis? A big floppy penis?
Everything all right, Mr. Curtis?
Yes, we were just doing fractions and biology.
Interesting combination.
Yeah, I wonder if when they released like the script books for these, whether they'll include the one that they gave to the kids. I'd love to see.
I'd love to, yeah.
The story
what do they think
gave
this is about? I mean, he did say they'll probably all just insist on watching the episode that they were in as it aired.
I can't believe
what the hell is it? And then there's more of this kind of playing up to the abuse storyline, almost in a way where he makes this incredibly badly coded message to Kerry about if you're struggling with something, then tell me. Don't just write any old thing down and make something up because it can have consequences.
Yeah, in the middle of an exam. As if
I might start doing that in exams at school. Just sit on my desk going, just remember, guys, if you sit and just make things up, there could be consequences.
The cuts are quite interesting because we're obviously moving. The time span of this is at least weeks, isn't it? I think.
It must be, because he kind of builds a rapport up with the kids to some extent in like the painting stuff, and they are clearly developing their assembly, which again is the aim of the curriculum in this place.
He talks about what Kerry did. Did she put, was it Owen's face in his birthday cake? Or that's like what gave rise to the Michael Jackson candle thing. Like last week or last month or whatever that was. So yeah,
I think that was when they had kind of got to the stage where they were painting and it was all a bit more relaxed, and they were apparently just making him hot drinks without question. So something's kind of,
really chilled out class is quite nice. Like, and there's a lot of just quiet reading or go and play for 15 minutes. Like, it seems pretty chilled out school in some respects.
Yeah, I like that. That's what you're taking away from this. It's a really chilled out school. I really like the environment.
I wish I'd gone there.
You just wouldn't have left.
Oh, hi, Winnie.
Oh, hello, dear. I just wondered if you wanted to take a leak.
Sorry?
For the Harvest Festival. I've had a good crop this year. Nice big potatoes, radishes. My turnips have won prizes, you know.
Well, congratulations.
So Winnie comes in with her leeks, and we have this sort of
very impressive neeps.
Impressive neeps.
Oh, this is as he finds the postcard, isn't it? With the suspicious postmark from Cardiff.
Second class stamp.
Not an airmail one. Not the Cardiff that's in Australia.
No.
Apparently. Yeah, it's troubling. Oh, also, there was the thing that slipped out of Kerry's book just before that, wasn't there? That's what led him to the postcard.
Of course,
was the picture of her holding hands with someone with a crown. Mm-hmm. Now, that is probably a doodle of her taking John Barleycorn outside. That is probably a little sketch of last year's festivities.
Yeah.
Rather than an abuse storyline.
Yeah, but on first view.
Again, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's kind of.
And that's what he thinks he's found, isn't it?
He's found this picture that suggests
it's a cry for help.
So she's reliving some trauma from last year that Mr. King was the abuser, and she's like assuming that
he'll do the same.
He is the same, and everything. Yeah,
but she described that wrong cock.
And so then he goes to the head's office after the weird exchange about the playtex lift and separate. And it is. I mean, it's a great performance by what's her name, Annette Badlands, as Winnie, and she's made some great appearances over the years. I think in different roles. I was looking at her. What's the word?
Filmography.
That's filmography, and yeah, she's been in all sorts of stuff, like loads of kids things that I remember growing up.
Actually,
yeah, things like the Queen's Nose and.
The Queen's Nose.
Loads of things around that sort of time. That I was like, oh man, yeah. And then Ted Lasso, She's got a great,
less
great
from my
role.
childhood and more from
Great role in Ted Lasso.
Queen's Nose, Ted Lasso. All through my life, she's been there.
Yes.
She did have a cracking line earlier, which was after the whole bit where she's supposedly blind as a bat and can't see anything, and they're skirting around the issue of what's going on in the classroom. And he says they were just doing some stuff for a possible art project, and she just says, "I thought he was taking pictures of your cock."
Yeah. Yeah. It's just
Good lines. Good lines for her.
Brilliant. She's got some great lines in this, and she delivers them perfectly.
And so into the office he goes, and into the filing cabinet, desperately searching for information about Mr. King, and there's no obvious file for him.
No.
They're sort of hidden a little bit. And he looks at like the teaching list from last year's, doesn't he? And that's where Mr. Hardy is.
Mm-hmm. And so we see the class photo from last year, which is, again, it's like we see that in The Wicker Man. And the drawer was worth talking about. Like, what's in the drawer? One slipper. So we had an email from another Lauren this week, a new Lauren.
Oh, is this? Yeah, I did read that one. Yeah, whether it was a diddle diddle dumpling.
Whether it was a diddle diddle dumpling.
Nod.
Yeah. And I'm not sure. I mean, teachers in the olden days used to have
a slipper to
smash
with.
the kids with.
Smash. Good verb use there.
And so maybe it's a kind of, we're learning something about Mr. Edwards' true character.
Yeah.
He's got an open packet of custard creams, a bottle of vodka, and a couple of sheets of gold stars, as well as this slipper.
Well, from what I'm aware of, that's just how it used to be back in the day.
I think so. Yeah.
Bottle of vodka, custard creams.
And we see what he uses the gold stars for.
I have written down here, cock Polaroid, ! With stars, !
I want to know
what is found in the Mr. King folder.
What his rating system is for those.
Well, what was the highest we saw? I saw 2 stars.
Two, I think. I think there was only 2, yeah. But a lot of them didn't have any. So I don't know does he put the stars on afterwards once he knows how effective they were?
What crop they produced.
Or is it just...
Because is he aiming for uncircumcised? Yeah, uncut and still sheathed is what he says in the last scene, isn't it? Obviously, Alan is a little unsure about he's quite sure about what he's just found, and he's pretty sure that there's some sort of paedophile ring thing going on here.
Covering things up.
Yeah, there's kind of this thing here where he calls the head teacher, and he's very angry, and he wants to speak to him straight away. And it initially starts as though he's about to say, "I'm worried about what I've seen about Mr. King, and I need to talk to you about what I think I've found," to then straight up accusing him of being involved and part of the same thing, to then going to make sure I still need to go and be in the classroom with the kids. Like, he doesn't decide, I'm going to do a runner here, I need to get out, I've got to go. He decides he's still going to go back to his classroom, and then settles in to just watch the assembly they prepared.
And there's a time gap here as well between him leaving the headmaster's office and him making that phone call, because his clothes change.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. And because that's at the end of the day as well, when he goes to the headmaster's office, and then he goes...
Of course it is, yeah.
Because that really confused me for a while, because I was like, why are the kids back suddenly? So he's obviously gone home and thought about it, but like his his tone on that phone call is like the fresh rage of someone who's just discussed.
Yeah, it is. Well, maybe if you go back to his house now, you'll see a whole bunch of like stuff on the walls with string wrapped around nails and all linking things together. And although it's actually just a picture of Mr. King, the head teacher, the kids, and then just paedophile. That's it.
Yeah, no, that kind of got me for a while. I was like, because that's
weird.
What then made me think about the timeline of it, and because you don't really get any sense of the time passing, but lots of time does pass.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what that is. Because then, so he re-enters the classroom and the kids are there ready to show the assembly, which I've written down is the beginning of Mr. Curtis's disassembly.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
You look very proud of yourself right now.
There's people, there's
well
people
deserved,
walking around Sainsbury's with us in their ears right now, clapping. So,
if you're in Sainsbury's and you hear someone let out a cheer, that's why they've just listened to Andy come out with that.
Headmaster, it's Alan Curtis.
Oh, hello, Adam. What can I do for you?
I need to talk to you urgently about several things. Firstly, about Mr. King. This school has no record of him ever having worked here.
What's that? Sorry, it's a very bad lie. Something about Mr. King?
The class teacher last year was a Mr. Hardy, completely different person. I don't know what this King has been doing here, been given access to children, but I think there's been abuse going on. It's been covered up, and I think you, Mr. Edwards, are part of it.
I'm losing you, Adam. It's a terrible connection. I'm just in the field. I'll come and see you shortly, okay?
You won't get away with this, do you hear?
Yeah, so he sat down in the chair, which went on first viewing, I didn't, that wasn't a moment where I was like, it felt very innocent. It felt like, oh, they've got something to show him.
Yeah, and it starts off really good.
Yeah.
And he's feeling like he's made progress with them as well.
Yeah, he must feel really proud. They've taken stuff on board.
I'm like, yeah, I'm proud of these guys. Look, yeah. And then there's the switch, like you said before. It says they kill him, they kill the guy. It says we recycle him later. And that's like the turning point of the whole assembly.
I'm not sure about that.
I'm not sure that's all right.
And then his stuck arms, that's a great effect going on there.
I mean, to be fair, if you were going to put on some sort of immersive performance art thing about Extinction Rebellion and climate protests, the idea of gluing the audience to their seats is genius.
Yeah.
To really say, how far are you willing to go in terms of what you believe about climate change right now? Mm-hmm. This far, I think that's an immersive experience that is worth applauding.
Definitely.
I mean, don't get me wrong. If I went to it and that happened to me, I'd be really pissed off. Yeah. I would say, what the hell is this? This is awful. But yeah, I think it's powerful. I think the kids have done a great job there.
They have real attention to detail. As you say, they must have been rehearsing this with Mr. Edwards for a while.
And then, the dark thing about, oh no, it doesn't happen quite yet, does it? But then gluing his lips later on. Yeah,
they sort of go through some of the stuff about 15th century Peruvian children.
First children sacrifices, now children demand sacrifice, and that reference to Greta.
Yeah,
Greta Thunberg demands sacrifices, not literal human ones, I don't think.
And then I love this, the use of the classic primary school musical instruments in accompanying the tape recorder. The tape?
Yes.
Is it a tape?
They've got a tape, yeah. I hadn't, thinking about that, one of those old little tape players.
I mean, the weird thing about this whole classroom is, to me, it's like everything is very normal.
Yeah, that's true, actually, because it's a bit of throwback. Yeah. Once you hit your sort of mid-late 30s, this seems, I remember them.
I think things have moved on a little bit.
Like,
this is an old-fashioned classroom.
I very vividly remember the tape player from German lessons at secondary school, and it was like this big wedge-shaped thing.
Okay.
That was all speaker on the front. I think I mainly remember it because sometimes our German teacher used to play classical music to us to sort of concentrate when we were doing sort of more extended writing things. And he left the room one day, and one of the jokers in the class got up and turned the tape over. And it was Buster Rhymes.
Amazing.
So it's good. Woo-ha, woo-ha. On this tape, we never really got to the bottom of why that was the case, why he had a two-sided tape that was, on the one hand, grown-up classical music, and the other side was 90s gangster rap.
Yeah, so then Mr. Edwards comes back in. You think
he's shocked.
Yeah.
And the kids have just gone rogue and they're all crazy. And what is happening in this school? He's lost control. No, he's in control.
Yeah. He's got there for his favourite part of the John Barleycorn story.
That moment with Kerry stood behind him with the sickle. That's quite horrifying, as though she's about to possibly disembowel him. But no, he's all in on this.
Yeah, he loves this. And then we find out, yes, crowned once a year, the Corn King. So, as we suspected from the photos, Mr. King is just the name given to... where do we hear... I think it's Kerry calls him Mr. King, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm.
That's the tight lips bit. No talking Mr.
Yes.
King. And he's
because
like, I'm not Mr. King. And it's like, no, Mr. King is an idea rather than a person.
Oh, I like that, yeah.
And Mr. King is there every year.
We're all Mr. King. Eventually.
So he is as nature intended. Uncut and still sheathed.
Last year, as you discovered, Mr. Hardy was given the honour. This year, the crown is yours.
Discovered you are as nature intended.
Uncut and still sheathed.
And this idea of the triple death is pretty vicious.
Yeah, so this is the John Barleycorn story.
Yes.
The 3 deaths representing the seasons through, is it barley? Like, because I think it's how it gets chopped and...
So he's drowned, strangled, then dismembered before being buried.
Yeah. Broken body buried to ensure fertile harvest. And then Gwen gets her moment, like human beings. The return of the human.
Yes!
And her face is great at that moment.
Yes!
Like,
Human beings!
Someone's like, see?
Yeah.
It is human beings.
That'll teach you condescending prick.
And we get the iconic you did it beautifully moment
Yes.
that we've seen in
Come to know and love.
in the Wicker Man. In the Nicolas Cage Wicker Man, it's the one bit that they don't do the same, or one of the core bits they don't do the same. I think they say you did it excellently, and it's just like that says
Why
everything you
change
need
it?
to know about that film. Is they've
Needless, gratuitous changing of things with no positive impact.
and needless, gratuitous trying to repeat things that just don't fit. And so here we see the cut and thrust of village life. It's come full circle. He left the cut and thrust of city life, walked straight into the more severe cut and thrust of rural village life.
With possibly the most horrific thing in this episode is Winnie's outfit. It's horrific. That doll's face, because she's like the Mother Earth character there, isn't she? With her twig arms and her... That's horrifying.
Ready to take him back into her womb tomb.
Womb tomb.
Not key stage 2.
That's not key stage 2 content. Womb tomb. Great wordplay. Not year 6 content. But yeah, I don't... Of all the things that I feel like maybe the kids shouldn't have been in the room for filming, that outfit I think should have been up there. It's horrendous.
It's pretty freaky. Yeah.
Well, like his mask though.
Amazing mask, and the way that sits is just so creepy.
It is. The filming
kind of,
through the eyes as little shots.
It's great. Yeah, that's like from the Wicker Man shot, and you're just seeing. I mean, that is so haunting when you're looking through this sort of narrow view, and you see
it's like full on loss of control there, isn't it? Where you have no peripheral vision, you don't know what's really going on, and you're just seeing faces glance in and out, and
and singing. I think that's the thing in the Wicker Man, where you've got it's the faces of the people dancing and singing, with like grins on their faces. Like it's not even
the gleeful.
Yeah, it's not even we're regretfully doing this. It's yes, we're doing this, and it's a a great thing. It's going to make our lives better.
And that's one thing that you've got in both Wicker Man and Midsummer is the dancing scenes, the gleeful dancing around the maypole. But you're right, they are fully into this, and they're making no bones about it. They are all in on this happy event.
Yeah.
And there's something more about it being with 10 and 11 year olds that just, that makes it all the more horrifying but brilliant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, really good. It's going to do Winnie's Leaks the world of good.
And then those last shots are of, like I said before, like these paintings that the kids have been doing that should have been foreshadowing exactly what they were about to do later on, which was heads and limbs scattered around, hanging out of trees. 3
murders on one man. Yeah. Yes, and we know exactly what's going to happen to him. There's no ambiguity because they sing it.
That's true.
It's all in the song.
Yeah, there's no... Yeah. Whilst the actual images are left to your imagination, what will be going on is not.
No, it's all there.
Perfect candidate for a new Corn King.
Thank you, Kerry. You did it beautifully. When his reign is ended, the king is returned to the land and honoured with a triple death. Drowned, strangled, and dismembered, his broken body buried in the field to ensure a fertile harvest.
Like human beings!
Exactly, Gwen. Like human beings.
If you want to get in touch,
B-mail?
Email's the one with the @ isn't it?
That's with the @ So A Quiet Night Inside No 9 at gmail.com is our B-mail address. If you want to get in touch via Twitter,
it's the little blue bird, isn't it? Yeah.
Hashtags.
Although having said that, you're about to say at AQNIN9, which is an @ That's the @ there as well. I wouldn't use the @ as the distinguishing feature.
That's not a distinguishing feature, is it? No. That's a good point.
It's nice hearing from people again.
It is.
I do like the emails. Keep it going.
All right. Well, have a good week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
You're going to do my leaks the world of good.
There were 3 men.